in 1999. So this day serves as an annual celebration of the role of the young women and men as essential partners in change and an opportunity to raise awareness of the challenges and problems facing the world's youth. Now in 2019, this year, the theme is transforming education. However, players in the health sector feel the health of this particular young people does have an impact on their education. So this morning we are tackling this particular pertinent issue of the youth, and this is youth reproductive health and how it affects their education. So this morning I'm joined by Mr. Charles Okwekmeno. Yes, he is the National Program Coordinator from the Sexual Rights and Health Rights Alliance right here in Uganda. Thank you so much for making time and welcome to Morning at 10 TV.
Thank you and good morning viewers, and good morning all the young people out there. Congratulations upon this day, the International Youth Day.
Thank you so much. So the youth and education is the theme for this year, and we are saying that we cannot achieve that particular theme at 100% if we don't tackle the issues they face on a daily, and this is sexual reproductive health issues. Let us in on that one, and of the two genders, which gender is most affected on this one?
Okay, thank you. The day is dedicated to education, and we know that the most important thing we can do to develop the young people is keeping them in school. But what is happening right now is that a lot of effort is being put on education, but most of these young people are dropping out, especially in sub-Saharan Africa and in Uganda. It's a big number. When you see the transition of enrollment from P1 to the now percentage of young people that will go into the university, there are less than 20% that will enter the university. So where are these other young people? Why are they dropping out? These are fundamental questions that we need to ask as a nation for us to be able to transform education.
Right.
And for us, we're saying this morning, one of the leading reasons why the young people are dropping out of school is their sexual and reproductive health. And there are a number of factors that is leading to that. But maybe just before I mention them, for us to be able to develop the young people and transition them, we have to make sure that both the boys and the girls, they keep in school right from when they join in primary up to when they enter into the university. And that's when you can have very productive population.
So I want us this morning to just break these issues down. We know teenage pregnancy still stands at 25%. This particular hit rate has been there, and we're wondering, why are we not able to bring this rate down? 25% is still a big number. Then after we go into that, we'll go into menstrual issues and all these other things. But teenage pregnancies, you go to the ground and you know the realities that are there. Why are we still grappling with this particular percentage? What is this huge, factor that is propelling these young children to be mothers before books?
Well, teenage pregnancy is actually a national crisis right now, because the number of young girls who are getting pregnant is alarming. The 25% is a national average.
Correct.
There are districts that are having 40%, 37%, others are even beyond 40%. So it's a big number. But the factors are many. The main one is to start with the young people. We are not building our young people to undergo their adolescence when they have enough information to understand themselves. Do they know that once you start menstruating as a girl, you can actually become pregnant?
So are you saying that a majority of young girls actually don't know that fact?
Exactly. And if you have interacted with many teen mothers, just ask them a simple question. Did you know that this will result into you getting pregnant? The answer is no. Most of them do not have this information. So as families, as a country, the young people in school, we are shy to give them the right information and facts that please understand these changes happening in your body, and these are their implications, and these are options that you have as a young person to be able to prevent getting pregnant. we are not giving them that information to start with.
Right.
Even if we are giving them, we give them in a very shy way because we fear that when they know about this, they will get spoiled. The fact is, these young people, their bodies are growing and they're mature and they're getting sexually active.
Right.
The more shy we are to give them the right information, then they will be making choices which are wrong choices, and what we're seeing is the high teenage pregnancy.
You know, when you talk about some regions actually having 40% of teenage pregnancies in terms of the rate, what age groups are we looking at? Especially now that you're saying that we have a very huge information gap on the basics. You're saying that we have teenage girls who actually don't understand that once they start seeing their menses or start experiencing their menstrual period, that they're actually, you know, prone to getting pregnant once they engage without protective sex. So what age group are we looking at, especially in these regions where the rate is as high as 40%?
Well, actually, we're having young girls getting pregnant at as early as 12 years, 13, 14.
Wow.
You know, 15, majority around 14, 15, 16. That's where the biggest numbers are. But I just also wanted to emphasize a little bit in terms of us as the society and as a country. You know, we are having these young people in the churches, we're having them in schools, we're having them in homes. All these places are supposed to have mechanism to prepare these children, to educate them to understand their body and understand the changes.
Correct.
Every time you see these young people around your school, around you, just know that they need the information. We all know what is happening in the school, and even the school administrators know that the children in school are sexually active. But we are not prioritizing to give them that proper information that they need. And then at national level, you can see that the policies that are supposed to provide an enabling environment for these young people to get information and services, we're taking years to pass them out.
Correct.
School health policy, over 18 years. Adolescent health policy, we had one, but we have not yet passed another one. National Sexuality Education Framework, the policy is out, and then so yes. at the national level, we are not prioritizing policies that are supposed to enable us to get these young people, no? And every time we're not doing that, we're actually risking more young people to get pregnant.
But what can be done at societal level, so to speak? Because you know governments, and it's not just a Ugandan problem. Governments do have this red tape processes, and it takes almost forever. We always say that delayed. It takes forever long for them to implement some of these issues. So, with government aside, what more can be done at the societal levels, with the local leaders, with the parents and stuff like that? What role do they have in fighting this?
Yes, I want to start that by speaking to every parent out there. Every time you see your daughter or your son, you know, growing in the home, just know that they need information. If you cannot give it yourself, please get someone who can talk to them. There are professional counselors who can talk to them. So make sure you do that if you cannot talk to them yourself. If you can, please do. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is that this young child will get information and influence from friends. That's
Correct.
one.
Yeah.
The second thing is the local leaders. Like, for example, the LC1. They are the ones, the children who are getting married. One of the biggest contributions to teenage pregnancy is child marriage. Where are these families, where these children are getting married and staying there? Why would the local council, one of any village, allow a child to get married and stay in that marriage? Our law does not allow that. Why would we allow that? So we need the local council ones to rise up from 1 to 3. We shouldn't allow a child to get married and stay in that marriage and even get pregnant. And all of us are there.
Right.
The community members were there. This is something that the community must rise above and say no to it.
But when you go on ground, I'm sure that you get some of this, pretty much we all call them excuses with regards to child marriages. Someone will tell you that I'm totally indebted, and so the only way out is to give this young beautiful girl of mine to this man who I owe so much. And others will say that poverty is real for us. We can hardly, you know, survive on a meal a day. We can hardly get this meal a day. So they say that if I marry off this child, maybe the bride price that will come through will save this family. So what is the ultimate solution to this? Because we know that Uganda is huge. You're talking over 40 million population. So what are those quick solutions with regards to us, you know, pretty much just putting a stop to child marriages, knowing that the facts on ground and the realities on ground are so real?
Well, also, that's why we are saying let's try to address sexual reproductive health comprehensively, because some of these problems they have now over generations. Your parents got married when they were young and they dropped out of school. Then you're also now getting married when you're young. So you have a generational problem that will result into that poverty. But also we still know that some of our cultures and religions still promote, they have no problem with child marriage.
Correct.
So it's us as the society to say that whether this was a cultural practice or it's a religious practice, child marriage is wrong, and we should deny it at that level to start with. The issue of poverty is actually just the excuse that many parents are using. It's true that they are poor, but they are mechanism that they can survive with rather than sacrificing the career and the life of this child to get married at a very young age. There are other mechanisms. Let them go farming, let them have all those options. But as a country, because every time a child is born in this country, it belongs to the country, and the future of this country relies on that child.
Right.
We shouldn't allow the parents to sacrifice their children for the excuse of being poor. We shouldn't. We should protect, and this is where the child protection issues come in. Over and above, if you're a parent and you're poor, please find a way of working hard. Do not sacrifice your child, because the country needs this child. This child will be the next leader to
Correct.
take this country to the next level.
Correct, and we always say that selling off your child is short-term. It's a short-term solution, because once, if at all you don't have a mindset change, you will still get that bride price, you'll run out of it, maybe squander it, and you'll go back to square one, which is poverty. So I hope that they actually heed to that.
I actually ask questions every time that, do you know of any parents that have gotten rich because they married off their young daughter? It's not there. And actually the parents do not understand that in the long run, when you marry your child, in the long run you will actually be more poorer. But if you invest in this child to study, the child will be the one to liberate you from poverty. And parents need to appreciate that the contribution of your child to your personal development and your welfare will happen if you make this child keep in school and grow and become a productive citizen.
Right. Earlier on we did mention that it's interesting that young girls don't know that once they start off their menses, they can actually get pregnant. But let's stick to that conversation with regards to menstrual hygiene and sanitation and you know, and matters to do with that. We know that girls here in the country lose about 8 to 10 days, and this is 8 to 10 days of a school calendar, school term, so to speak. The reality on ground, and what are some of these gaps that are keeping us off from accessing that reality that we are all dreaming about, where every single girl will not drop out of school or will not lose school just because they're in that beautiful time of the month, the menses period?
Yeah, the menstrual health of our young girls and even women in general is still a big issue in this country. We're losing a lot in terms of productivity, but even in terms of these girls being in school as a country because of menstrual health. And the reason stems from the fact that we are not recognizing menstrual health as an issue. Why would someone have a school where you know that all these girls are going to be in this school every day, and you do not have the basic facilities for these girls to take care of themselves?
Right.
That shouldn't happen. And it should be a criteria for Ministry of Health, for local government. If you're going to open a school, that's the first question. How will the girls take care of their menstrual health? You should be able to answer that and put in place facilities. To begin with, the parents, your daughters are going back to school. You must make sure that they have enough resources and enough materials that they can use during their menstrual health.
What happens to parents who cannot afford this?
You see, many times when we're talking about menstrual health, people take it in terms of a lot of money. We're talking about basic resources. The menstrual health materials that we have now, the sanitary towels, there are a lot of options that any parents, the excuse of parents not affording is really, but then if a parent does not afford, now when this child comes to the school environment, can we have the basic facility that she can use? We all know that for the menstrual health, they need sanitary towel. They need some basic painkiller in case there's menstrual cramps.
Right.
They need basic things. And you see, when we're talking about having these menstrual health facilities, people look at it in a very big way. But I always try to simplify it, that this is about, you are not being told to build a new big toilet and spend a lot of money. You're being told that let's use this small space that we have,
right,
and create basic resources that whenever this girl is in need, she can be able to walk in and get the help that she needs.
You know, you're pointing out to something quite critical, and that's the privacy during that period.
Exactly.
We were having this conversation before we went on air. In some schools, boys and girls are still sharing the same facilities when it comes to sanitation. So just to be real to this conversation, and I'm sure that you always have this project, so to speak, just for a school that is watching us today, or a leader in any community that is watching us today, at times we always shun some of this, projects just because we say that, that one is expensive. But how much critically, like just looking to it critically, how much does it cost for, maybe just a latrine to be put up, just one single basic unit? How much is it roughly?
If you already have a existing toilet or latrines in your school, you just need to dedicate one and maybe use about, even say between 500 and $1 million to put a few basic facilities, because water is needed, of course, and then you need emergency sanitary towel, and you may not need many because most of these girls, their parents actually give them, but have a few so that in case there is emergency, the girls can be able to take care of themselves. You need some basic painkillers in the first aid box. So these things are not really a lot of money, and maybe for the beginning of putting it up together, but now maintaining it, you just need basic budget. Even I can see that if you have a budget of 50,000, that can even have resources, materials that can take you for a month,
right,
for emergency purposes. But I wanted to emphasize one thing, especially to the local leaders. Even at workplaces, the issue is every time you see the ladies around you, you see those young girls who are growing, just know that they need the menstrual health services, and make sure that the basic menstrual health services are there. Do
you know, in some companies actually they don't have first aid box kits.
Exactly.
They don't have basic painkillers. You'd go to a company and you just have an emergency where you have a headache. It's happened to me before, and I was just seated there waiting to get into a meeting, and unfortunately I just had this bad headache, and I was like, I have to arrest it now or it's not gonna be an easy, smooth sail for me through the meeting. And so I just asked the receptionist, kindly, can you afford me some, maybe just one pair of Panadol or some painkillers? And she was like, no, we don't have, unfortunately. And I was like, you don't have a first aid kit? And they were like, we don't have such facilities here. So
you see, what
you're saying is true.
Exactly. And it's as simple as that when this girl is in need, she should be able to find that one Panadol, that emergency sanitary pad, basic services. And many people look at it as, we need a lot of money to do this. No, you just need this basic. And we can start with that, then you can build into the big one. I always ask this question when I'm interacting with the leaders, that if you are a lady and you're in Kampala here and you're moving in this town now, and your menses hit, where do you go? to get an emergency services. Right. So even as people are planning for their town, this should be one of the things they should think about. Just like schools and any other institution, we would like our ladies to be comfortable wherever they are. We would like our young girls to be comfortable. Let them just walk out of the class briefly, go and organize themselves, and come back and attend class like others. They shouldn't lose a day or even an hour because of menstrual health.
Are you hopeful this will be a discussion that will bury anytime soon?
I'm very hopeful, because when we break it down in a simple way like we're discussing, then many people see that it's possible. You know, many people that I interacted with have perception of spending a lot of money, you have to build a toilet. But when we break the discussion and make it so simple that you don't need all those extraordinary investments, you just need to start with putting the basics, then you can build on it over time.
All right.
That makes it easy, and I'm very hopeful that everyone who is listening now, starting with your home, you're going to do something about menstrual health. The
other reality that we're still grappling with regards to the youth and their sexual reproductive health is HIV and AIDS. We're still talking of high numbers with regards to new infections, 1,000 new infections every single day. Where are we losing out? Where are we losing out? Is it the information? Is it the ignorance with the youth? What exactly is it? On a day like this, in this century, we're still talking of margins or numbers of 1,000 new infections every single day.
Yeah, HIV is still a reality, and not only HIV, there are even other sexually transmitted diseases that people don't speak about, like syphilis. They are also still there. They are realities. But the issues is to start with also information. These young people, as they are growing up, just like you know that if they can engage in sex that results into teenage pregnancy, then you are also sure that the risk of HIV is there.
Correct.
The risk of other sexually transmitted diseases is there. So if we address the issue of information, we give these young people real information that they need to know without pretense, and then that is backed. The other thing is services. Most of the young people, they would want to use these services. For example, they may be sexually active and they want to go for a condom. But the perception that the society, the health workers or whichever shop they go to will have them against them will make them shy away from going.
Right.
We have to face this reality as a nation and make sure that we create friendly environment for young people, that if you are in need, instead of going unprotected, do you know the options that you have? Do you know the option that you have to prevent pregnancy? And are you able to make that choice whenever you need it? That's the environment that we need to create for the young people. Then they will thrive. We will not even need to follow them. You will see most of them thriving. But right now, as a country, I want to point out this as a fact that we are still very, very shy about this. Our parents are very shy. The country is very shy, even when we're talking about our policies.
Education.
Sexuality education. Whenever you mention it anywhere, that conversation,
yes,
people just want to close their eyes. When you mention sexuality education, you see people closing their eyes. But this is reality. This is what we have in our daily life. We need to rise up and face it and say that our young people are sexually active, and those who are sexually active, what kind of information do we give them?
Right.
Those who are not sexually active and are still in school, what kind of information do we give them so that they maintain the abstinence?
Mr. Charles, you know, they always say that charity begins at home, but you're saying that we need to rise up and come up to the reality. For a very long time, we've been burying our heads in the sand, thinking that my child is totally pure, is okay. So where do we start from with regards to just changing the parents' mindsets and telling them these children are actually sexually active and they need this information? Where do we start from in terms of sensitizing parents?
Yeah, actually, you have given a perfect example. There are many parents who always get shocked to find that either their child has sexually transmitted diseases, or they are pregnant, or they have undergone unsafe abortion. They get that news and they get shocked because the children are so good and humble when they are at home. but the reality is they are doing something else. So the beginning point, and as Sexual Reproductive Health Alliance, we have started talking to parents. We are engaging parents, we're having conversation with them. Actually, we are actually making them to be the one now to drive the children towards getting sexual reproductive health. We're even making them to be expert in giving that information. Many parents are also, even they themselves, they lack the information. They don't know what to tell their children. But I always advise that as a parent, if you feel that you are shy to talk to your child, get someone else who have the right information, or at least a professional counselor to talk to this child.
You know, most of the parents, I'm a parent, and I'll tell you this for sure. We always say that, you know what, even if I'm shy, it's okay. The church will find a way. The school will find a way to still, you know, dispense this information to my children. So is it just a role of the parents to break this news to them or to sensitize their children, or it's a partnership sort of where the church has a role to play, the schools have a role to play, especially the churches? Because I remember when you're having this sexuality education debate, they're the ones who are number one, you know, some sects of the churches, number one to say that we're not so sure about this particular policy. So what is it for you?
I think the issue shouldn't be just the parents. The parents are key. They have a primary responsibility, and they need to talk to their children.
Right.
But many parents, when their children are going back to school, you just talk about spend money well and what. You don't talk about the real things.
Yeah.
But for me, my emphasis on this is that let it be everywhere. When this child is with the parents at home, can the parents give them the right information? When they go to school, can the school have programs where they also get the right information? When they go to church, sexuality education can be taught from the church context.
Correct.
And for me, what I've been telling the church leaders, even right now, I want to say every church leader out there, pick the sexuality education framework the way it is and contextualize it. What can you teach from the context of your church instead of blaming? Because there are children who are in your church, but there are those who are not in church.
Right.
And all of them deserve the information. There are children who are in your church and they are sexually active, and there are those who are abstaining. So how do you balance these two? And the question to you is, how can you teach sexuality education from your context of the church teaching, the church ethics, and the church doctrine?
Okay.
But you shouldn't have children being brought up and parents entrusting them to you in your church, and these children are not given any information. Then we start seeing some of them even getting pregnant right from the church environment.
Right.
So that means that you have a responsibility to give these children the right information. And if you don't have the right information, you have partners that you can work with. They will always customize to your church teaching.
Right.
So this is something that we can be done by religious leaders, but most of them fear. And we are doing this with the Busoga Diocese through one of our partner, Family Life Education Program. We have experts now in sexual reproductive health among religious leaders.
Correct.
Who can stand up to the congregation and speak.
You know, those are the religious leaders in the churches, and I really hope that they've actually, you know, listened to you. The other key sector is the health facilities, the health sector, which plays, I think, the pivotal role in fighting all these vices that we've talked about this morning. But many youth will say that I cannot go to that hospital and share with them my issues, because number one, if I can't approach my parents, I can't approach my pastor in church, I can't approach my teacher, then the other place that I should be feeling safe to go to is at least a health center, especially if I'm feeling a certain way. So they always feel like there's no, you know, privacy in the health centers for them to just pour out their hearts and to share their issues with the, you know, health practitioners, so to speak. So would having youth corners or safe spaces in health centers pretty much help in the youth just coming out? Because you and I know some of these young people actually go down with some of these infections just because they were afraid of sharing with someone, just because their parents are a certain way. So would it help for us to have some safe spaces and safe havens in this particular, you know, health centers, for them to feel like, hey, my parents are unreachable, my teachers are unreachable, my Sunday school teachers or, you know, church leaders are unreachable, but I can go to a health center and I'll be sorted out. Is that the way to go?
Yes, and this debate about making health centers friendly to the young people, it has been there for a while. The issue is we need to understand, and the health workers need to understand what friendly environment means to young people. The first thing is confidentiality. It's very, very key to young people, for them to come to you and open up about their issues. Or else they will come, they will come that they have malaria when actually they have other sexually transmitted diseases or even pregnancy.
Right.
So confidentiality is very key. The second issue is privacy. The young people, they want to, because they fear to be judged. Whenever people see them coming to the hospital, people will think maybe they're pregnant, they want to abort, or they fear to be judged. But when you create, especially those basic two to start with, and most of our health workers do not understand that. And what we have been trying to do is to also orient them and make them have conversation with young people so that they can understand what young people want.
Do you think that's a doable, you know, kind of strategy where we just sensitize all the health workers? Would it be maybe, you know, more helpful for us to just have a specific, you know, number of health workers in the different health sectors to be just sensitized and trained on matters youth, and they're just put there to tackle and to, you know, deal with issues with regards to the youth? Would that be a solution?
Yeah, actually, this should be for the Ministry of Health and even the health sector in general. We know that the young people will always come to this hospital and they need the services. There are critical things that we have to always consider. One, if you are posting health workers in the hospital, are there those one or two who are trained to handle young people?
Correct.
Because if you just post health workers and the young people come and there's no one who can understand their basic needs, then they will shy away from the hospital. The second thing, the young people have their unique needs. Do we have some basic services amongst those packages of drug that you are requesting for? Are there those that will meet the needs of young people, their sexual reproductive health needs, when they come to the hospital? Because the other issue is when they come and they find that the things you need are not there, then they feel they are not catered for and they shy away from the hospital. Most of them are going for unsafe abortion and they end up, some of them are even dying because of unsafe abortion. But when they come to the hospital and the health workers can give them right info, they may not even abort.
Right.
They will be taken good care of. So the issue is, as a health sector, we need to, actually many countries are even now having adolescent health hospital built specifically to deal with adolescents and even have this unique environment that meets their needs. For us, we may not start with that, but can we make sure that every hospital has staff, but also basic facilities? It may not be the youth corner as we talk about, but at least when the young people come to the hospital, can they be attended to in a way that meets their needs? There's a hospital in Jinja, Budondo Health Center 3, that young people go to a lot. And we were asking the health worker, how come? They actually have their route that they used to pass and enter the corner. And when they go there, they have their health worker. They have health workers who are well trained, who are able to handle their issues. And when you get their experience, the way they get those young people to open up, then that's when you know that we actually need to train our health workers on how to handle these adolescents. But if we don't, then we should know that on top of not having information, they will shy away from going to the hospital. And what do we see next? HIV, teenage pregnancy, STIs, and all these problems we're talking about. And when we do that, we cannot transform education.
I like that hospital. They even have a specific route for the young people to access the hospital. Total privacy. That's interesting. As we wrap this up, we still know that we cannot hide from the conversation of female genital mutilation.
Exactly.
What is the current burden in the country?
Due to the law that we now have and the efforts on ground, especially in the Sebei region, there has been quite reduction. But we know that the law is just one component. Because of lack of comprehensive programming, you still find that the attitude of the community has not changed. Recent reports indicate that there are even those girls who will sneak into the neighboring countries to be able to get the services of genital mutilation from there, and then they come back, because in Uganda the laws are strong. That means that we need to now invest in building the attitude of the community for them to understand that this is actually a vice and it doesn't add any value to their daughters. Right. Therefore they shouldn't promote it. So that's one area of investment that I wanted to point out. But the law is there and the law is good, and I can also confess that there's a lot of efforts to implement the law. There are also a lot of effort to change the surgeons, those who are cutting the girls, to change them into champions, to denounce the female genital mutilation. But still there's a lot of work to do engaging the entire community. We need to have more dialogue, more conversation, correct, and more awareness raising. And you know, there are some leaders that we've interfaced with, and they say that FGM is the solution to maybe taming our girls and, you know, pretty much lowering down their sexual drive, so to speak. But that we're saying is not true, because some of them will say that if you're having these vices, teenage pregnancies, HIV and AIDS, STIs, STDs, and all these other things, then for most they still believe that FGM could be the solution. Are we saying no to that? No, we shouldn't actually promote that. You see, what people don't understand is once you build a young person, they will be able to make the right choice. It's not about curtailing them by keeping them, don't go out, and what they will sneak out. Or you have to get this FGM for you to be... Nothing will stop the young people, because their feelings and their body are real. But what the young people need is the right information, such that, I always tell parents this, that when that person is advancing to your daughter, you will not be there. What will be there is the information that your daughter has to conceptualize and say that this is wrong, right, and say no to that advance. And therefore, the solution we have to make our young people take charge of their life and make the right decision, say no to wrong things and say yes to the right thing, is information, right information. That's what we should invest in. And if you don't have it as a parent, get someone, a professional person or someone who has the right information to give it to your son or daughter. Right. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Charles. As we wrap this up, I just want you to give us your last remarks. And camera one is the camera that you'll be using this morning, just to talk directly to the different stakeholders, the key players in us, you know, fighting this. And for us to get to that point where I will say, at least now we have made a great milestone. Talk to them, camera one. I want to start by speaking to the country that as a nation, right now we have a big opportunity. 78% of our population is young people. We need to think of how do we build these young people so that in 15 years they are productive citizens that will take the developments that we have now forward. This is the most fundamental question. Therefore, we shouldn't allow them to drop out of school because of sexual reproductive health issues. The second thing is to the parents. I want to tell you this. Every time you see your son or daughter there beginning to have changes that happens in adolescence, know that they need the right information. Take the quick action. Don't wait when problems strike, that they are now pregnant or they have diseases, then you start to blame them. Be proactive and make sure that they get the information. If it's not from you, get the right person who can give them that information. Finally, to the different institutions that we have in this country, menstrual health is a basic need. It's a right. We cannot stop it. It's a natural process and it's healthy. Let's make it convenient for our daughters, for our girls, for our ladies. Let's make them comfortable and productive. We shouldn't lose their productivity. We shouldn't make them miss school just because of their menstrual health. Right. So finally, sexual reproductive health remains a big issue. As an alliance, we are telling the country, let's prioritize and budget for sexual reproductive health. Make sure the drugs are there, make sure the right information are there. If we do that, I can assure you, you will see the transition in enrollment. We will begin to see many young people going up to the university, and that will be good for the country.
Right, especially once we, you know, just tackle that. It's unfortunate that we only have 20% of them that came in at P1 graduate to the university level, but that number has to go up. Yeah. And thank you so much for coming in studios, for helping us to understand, you know, how we can fight this particular vice and just provide a better tomorrow for our young people. Mr. Charles Owekmeno, the National Programs Coordinator from the Sexual Reproductive Health Rights Alliance right here in the country. Keep your views coming. The hashtag is morning@NTV across all the social media platforms. You're wondering, just in case you're joining us, you're wondering why are we having this conversation? Today is International Youth Day, and of course the theme is transforming education, and we're saying that we cannot give these young people education that is at 100% without tackling the issues with regards to sexual and reproductive health. Keep your views coming, like I said. Hashtag morning@NTV, and we are streaming live both on Facebook and YouTube pages. NTV Uganda is the place to be. We're taking a short commercial break. We'll be back with interesting conversation, I must say. Social media influencers are now being asked to register. Get all the details after this break.